to part 3 of winter. You know, it's March 2nd, and it's starting to feel a little bit like spring out there. And that means the days are getting longer, temperatures are a lot warmer, and the birds are going to be migrating through and to Minnesota. This episode is called The Question of Migration. Why do some birds migrate south and others stay here for the winter? How do they find their way? How do scientists know where they go? I hope I can answer some of these questions. I don't even know if I can, but I'm going to try.
Why do birds leave in the winter? Well, it's all about the energy. Many birds' food disappears. If you eat insects or the nectar of flowers, it's going to be pretty tough in the wintertime. In fact, hummingbirds are the first birds to leave in August. The seed-eating birds have a much easier time. There are plenty of seeds sticking up from the snow of the field, and humans help out a lot too by feeding birds. It's really important to keep those feeders full in the wintertime. Otherwise, you have a high concentration of birds in one area without enough food. They're going to die pretty quickly. Food gives them the energy to do what they need and mainly keep warm in the wintertime.
As we'll hear later, most hawks migrate out of Minnesota in the wintertime. However, with all the bird feeding in my neighborhood, there's been a sharp-shinned hawk hanging around all winter long. Here it is sitting on top of my bird feeder. Even attempted to catch a bird in the evergreens. It was unsuccessful, but I'm sure every once in a while he gets lucky. Robins in the summertime eat mainly worms and insect larvae. But the ones that stick around here in the winter switch their diet to berries and crab apples.
One day in January, I was walking in the park near my house, and I saw 50 robins up in the trees eating berries and crab apples. It turns out that about 10% of Minnesota's robin population stays behind in the winter.
Not all birds migrate out of Minnesota. Some actually migrate to Minnesota. Imagine if your wintertime getaway was Minnesota. Well, for some birds, that's exactly what it is. Minnesota is an exotic location with relatively warm temperatures and nice amenities. Hey, hot enough for you?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Here's one example. This little bird comes all the way from the Arctic Circle, where it breeds in the summertime, to winter in southern Canada and the northern United States. These are snow buntings, and you'll see them in Washington County along the roads. They'll be picking up little insect larvae, seeds, and bits of gravel that they use to help grind up their food. Ducks, geese, and swans need open water, but most places are frozen. When I was at Crosby Lake, I noticed one day it was minus 10 degrees, and there was a small open area of water. As I got closer, I saw quite a few mallard ducks in there, and it looked like a regular hot tub. It made me wonder why that water was open. It was so cold out. Usually when you see open water, it's because there's a stream. Moving water does not freeze very easily, or the temperatures are warm. I came back the next day and measured the temperature of the water. Sure enough, even though it was 0 degrees outside, the water was 46 degrees. And that's because the water coming into the lake is coming from underground. Underground water in Minnesota stays pretty close to the average annual temperature of 46 degrees. Eagles need more water than this, so they're going to find places along the Mississippi that are still open. I decided to follow the river until I got to a place where there are a lot of eagles. An hour and a half south of the Twin Cities, you come to the town of Wabasha, where the Chippewa River meets the Mississippi River. This is the home of the National Eagle Center, which has excellent exhibits on eagles and other raptors, has an observation deck overlooking the Mississippi, and you can take in a live eagle show. The Chippewa River Delta and the swift-moving currents create open water all year long, and there are thousands of eagles that come here every year to spend the winter from all those frozen lakes that we have up north. On the day I was here, there were 78 eagles seen at Reed's Landing, just north of Wabasha. I stopped there around lunchtime, and It didn't take me long before I saw eagles resting on the ice, fighting for territory in the sky. And even swooping down and picking up a fish out of the river. For this question, we'll have to use our imaginations. If we were birds, how would we find our way? I could follow the features of the landscape, such as riverways. Many birds follow the Mississippi on their way south to the Gulf of Mexico. I could use a map and look for geographical features. Birds have a very good visual memory. Essentially, they carry a map in their brains. They can travel thousands of miles and return to the same nest every year. I could use a compass to tell me what direction south is, even when it's cloudy or dark. Scientists have discovered that birds have an ability to detect the Earth's magnetic field. Millions of years of natural selection have evolved the bird's senses to the point where they can actually visualize the Earth's magnetic field. This is a great aid in navigation. Cranes learn the route from their parents. Hey, there's Mom. Wait up. And finally, like a glider pilot, I would try to take advantage of natural air updrafts along cliffs and the shorelines of lakes and oceans. Rising air currents and the coastline of Lake Superior are two reasons why Hawk Ridge, north of Duluth, is such a great spot to watch migrating hawks. Since the 1920s, almost 100 years, scientists have been attaching small metal bracelets to the legs of migrating birds. And when those birds are either recaught or killed or found dead, there is a phone number to call on that band. And when a citizen calls in that information, that's recorded. Because of this, even if 3 to 5% of these birds are recovered, that's enough information over the years to put together a pretty detailed map of where birds go and where their breeding areas are and where they finally end up. To find out more, I caught up with Frank Taylor, who's a legend in Minnesota for banding birds. He specializes in banding hawks. Frank met me outside his home in White Bear Lake.
So what we do is we capture birds unharmed, and my thesis is to develop a humane method where the bait is not hurt either. What we do and what we've done for the last 51 years up on the north shore of Lake Superior is set up a special kind of net. So and what it is it's just a net that real fine, and I set it up in front of a row of trees so the hawk, when it's coming in, can't see it. From as small as a sharpshin, male sharpshin hawk here with a number 3 band, and you see how tiny that is, all the way up to an eagle, which has these much bigger bands.
Ah, there we go. You got a Tirasol Kestrel. Watch him bite check now. Oh, 07 09719.
After the bird is captured, we carefully place a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service marker on the bird's leg. Make sure that this band will not impair the bird in its ability to get food.
All right, so this is a map of some of our recaptures. Since 1970, we banded over 4,000 hawks. So your return is not going to be great on this method. It's kind of the old-fashioned way of doing things. And out of those birds, 53 of them are picked up at Duluth because that's where they're headed. And there's an excellent bird bander down there. Frank Nicoletti is his name. And Hawk Ridge is one of the best places to see migrating birds. So they catch a lot of them. We have 37 birds that were captured in other locations. And you can see red-tailed hawks. They only go down about this far. We've got sharp-shinned hawks that are all heading for South America, either through the islands, down through the Caribbean this way, or coming around and going through Mexico to head down to South America. Here's a chart of birds of raptors of Minnesota, 31 species that either migrate through here or are indigenous to the state. With the bootios, most of these only go down as far as the snow line because they're mousers. They eat mostly mice. So they'll go down through Kansas and Missouri and that area. The broad-winged hawks are the one group of that, and the Swainson's hawks that migrate completely out of the country.
You can't argue with the success of the old-fashioned bird banding method with over 3.5 million bands recovered. Today, scientists are harnessing small radio transmitters to the backs of birds, which gives you a more detailed analysis of individual bird movements.
Transmitter looks like it's really tiny, and so it sits on her back. She's wearing the one right now that we're listening to, and I can track her. With this unit, I can track up to 10 hawks. We have satellites now where we can track eagles. There's several sites online that you can look up with the National Eagle Center to see where the eagles are going, and then also Raptor Resource Project has tagged some eagles, and they have a super good site for watching the migrating birds and also the ones that are down in Decorah.
Frank's referring to the famous Decorah Eagle Cam, where you can, at any time, click on a live feed and see what the eagles are up to. For example, these eagles, back in January, were maintaining their nest. You may have been thinking, what's up with that bird Frank is holding? Well, you're about to find out.
This is a red-tailed hawk, and she's the easiest bird to hunt with. There's a lot of them around, so you're not going to hurt the population, and they tame down so well. She'll be 16 in April, but she learns that she uses these talons to kill. This is the one that does all the damage in the back when she goes after something. That one pokes in. She hangs on to everything with this, but she's always really gentle, with her feet around me. She'll move them out of the way. If I put my hand here, she won't even step on it. See, she's lifting up, and she balls up her foot so she doesn't hurt. I let her, if she catches something, I treat her like a wild bird. I just let her eat all she wants. To get a bird like this, you have to have a federal falconry permit. You have to study for about a year. You have to take a test. You have to have an inspection of your facilities and all the equipment on the bird. You have to pass the test by 80%. Then you have to find a sponsor. Then you can go out and get a red-tailed hawk, but you can't take it from a nest and you can't take an adult. You have to get one that's on its first migration south. So you keep that red-tail for 2 years as an apprentice. Then you'll work with a red-tailed hawk for 2 years. Then you go in the next category, the general category, for 5 years. And so if you're adding that up, it takes 8 years to get a master falconer's permit.
I think I've answered the 3 questions from the beginning of the show. Let's think about them in terms of things you've learned this year. First of all, through millions of years of evolution, birds are highly adaptive to survive. And that means sometimes they have to migrate in order to find enough energy to make it through a winter. We learned that birds are also highly evolved to migrate long distances, and they're excellent navigators. Also, we learned that there are different types of scientific method. Not all science is learned through controlled experiments. By doing careful observation and data collection, scientists over the course of 100 years have collected 3.5 million pieces of data on birds and bird migration. This has led to very detailed maps of where birds go in the wintertime. And that is very important for us to identify critical habitat and help protect it. And as a bonus, we learned a little bit about the relationship between birds and humans in the sport of falconry. And that wraps up the trilogy on winter. So in the meantime, till I see you again, have a beautiful day.
It stays perfectly still when I move them around. They use that in helping them catch their prey. So when he's coming in after something, his body can move around, but his head will just stay almost perfectly still so he can maintain whatever he's looking at and catch it.
Thank you.